Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start.
2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another live video for you today, and joining me is going to be David, and he's from the channel Wide Awake. We're going to be looking at some of his videos, discussing a few ideas and concepts. So, should be a good show.
Okay, I'm
Sorry about that.
I've done the work at the VC.
I had a little NASA thing pop up. That was fun. And so you can sub to Wide Awake, please, if you haven't. He's got some awesome observations, and that's, you know, some of the unsung heroes, if you want to call them that, of this whole movement have been the people who are just making some stellar observations and putting out some videos that, you know, make it easier for all of us to go and actually observe some of these things, because I think that we're, you know, uncovering new things every day because of these guys. So it's great to have them aboard. So David, what's up, my friend? How are you doing?
Good. Like to bring up some of my sun videos. I think there's some good observations and some good information to be taken from them.
Yeah, I think so too. I wanted to cover real quick just the news of the day. A little interesting fact that the U.S. launched a missile today. I don't know if you saw that, out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, and then from basically, I don't know why that keeps happening. Basically from the atoll, then they launched another missile to intercept it. Okay, that's all great and dandy, but set us back 244 million. That just makes me, you know, I don't even understand how people, you know, put up with this kind of stuff. But I guess it's because, you know, I don't know how many times has America been hit by a missile since 1991. I think it's like 2,210 times. Oh wait, no, let me check that again. That's my bad. The U.S. has actually dropped 2,210 missiles since 1991 on other countries. So that's $600 billion that we've dropped on Iraq and Serbia, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, Bosnia, Sudan, the Yemen. So pretty sad. So this test was certainly needed, I guess, even though they say it's to protect us from North Korea, yet their most recent test went 250 miles and then dropped into the ocean. So more wasted money. So David, I did notice that you got attacked, much like I have been, or accused, like me, of being on Team Satan. You had your footage called faked or CGI. You're a deceiver, and all this because you said that clouds don't go behind the sun. So is that correct?
That is correct. It's been by a gang of them, actually.
Yeah, they don't. They come in numbers, don't they?
Yes, they do, and all of them are believers in their belief, and I'm a believer in what I actually see and what I observe. And most of the time when we observe the sun on the horizon, we were looking through a lot of atmosphere that is actually filtering out that sunlight, because if you look directly above you when there's no clouds in the sky, you can't look at that sun. So the reason you can look at that sun on the horizon is because of all the atmosphere and the clouds that are actually built up in front of you.
Go ahead and press play on your video. We got it up now, and you can talk us through. I saw this video earlier today, and I think it's one of the better examples I've seen of what happens at the horizon. So pay close attention as we get down near that. Have you seen, and I'm kind of looking at your sun now, kind of can't really tell. Have you seen the sun appear to look like a hexagon at all?
Yes, right at the very beginning it does, and I have one that was earlier that I actually have on this particular day that showed it as a hexagon.
Yeah, really interesting, because
I pull that one up too a little bit later and show it to you.
Sure, yeah, I'd like to see it, because I mean, there's that, you know, artificial sun that NASA has the patent for, and it's definitely a hexagon. So interesting. I mean, I can kind of see it in this image, actually. Kind of looks like a hexagon to me.
Yeah, in a little bit, you can kind of see a little squareness to the edges.
Yeah, definitely.
Now they brought up this thing about photoshopping or CGI. I don't even know how to CGI anything. I'm pretty computer illiterate. I mean, I'm only able to post my footage on there, a little bit of editing, or put a transition between one video to the next. But as far as having the capability of photoshopping or using CGI, I don't know how to do it. So for them guys to accuse me of that, I mean, I cracked up laughing. Now, this particular day, it was actually beautiful. It was a beautiful blue day. You couldn't see these clouds on the horizon. Now, one of the reasons why it's so red is I've cut back on all the lighting in my camera. The exposure compensation, I got at -0. I think even the exposure bracketing, I've got it at on high, believe it or not. And then on the light, I've got it on -3, I do believe is what it was on my camera settings. So I tried to cut as much light as possible. But like if I showed you a couple of videos earlier from this day, you would see how blue the sky is and how white out the background actually is.
Right. Now, if you bring that down to where we're getting close to, I mean, the clouds in this one, it's kind of hard to tell. People can think whatever they want to. Those guys seem to think for some reason that the sun is going in front of clouds when if you just really watch, you'll see exactly what's going on. And, we were talking before, David and I, but when I finally realized what was going on is it took me going into my video editor. I saw 2 or 3 videos where, excuse me, where people had said birds had gone behind the sun. And it really looked like it to me. I looked at it, I said, man, that really looks like that bird's going behind the sun. So I put it in my editor and changed the color compensation. And when they got it to a certain color, you could clearly see the bird go in front of the sun. So at that point, I realized what's happening is just the sun is so bright and it just washes out anything in front of it. So for instance here, the sun is not going in front of these clouds. It's going to go behind these clouds, but it's so bright that it will wash out what's standing between us and the sun. And so obviously you can't no longer see those clouds. So it might give the appearance, especially if the cloud is showing on the right side of the sun, the left side of the sun. Clearly you can tell that it's not going in front of any clouds. And really, if you just think about it, really kind of understand that our sunset is someone else's noon, is someone else's sunrise, and then think about the clouds and where they would need to be in reference to everyone's view, and you'll really quickly realize that you're not seeing clouds behind the sun. And the other way to check that out is go to anybody's balloon launch. I often reference Dwayne Kellum. I think Dwayne Kellum's done some of the best work, and if you watch that, you'll clearly see that the sun doesn't ever go. It's above the clouds. It's higher than the clouds.
It's always above the clouds, and that's what I had said to I think it was Flat Earth Photography, or maybe it was Awake Souls. I told him, I said, you find me any high altitude balloon flight that shows a cloud that high up and it goes behind the sun, and then I'll believe you. But as far as I'm concerned, it was actually Q and P was the one that got me watching all these high altitude balloon flights. And that was another thing that the light popped on inside my head and said, wait a minute here. I don't see a cloud anywhere near that sun when they show the sun up there by these high altitude balloons. So I said, now how in the world? I mean, you can obviously see the clouds well below it. I mean, well below it too. I mean, they're not anywhere near the sun, but again, I'm not one that will believe that the sun is 93 million miles away either. And that is definitely not the case that I see.
No, not at all. And, I think the best way to describe it, and I have to do a video about it because everybody listening, see if you can follow along with what I'm going to say before we get to the sun here at the horizon. But this is the best way I think you can describe it. It kind of answers all the Globers questions about the sun. Is you really need to picture yourself in your bedroom that you're in right now. Picture the 8-inch or the 8-foot ceiling, and then just picture that room being as big as your city. So the room is huge, okay? and then picture a light on your ceiling, and that light is above you, which is going to light your room, your area right here, you're lit. And then picture that light starts going away from you towards the other side of your city. And it's moving away from you. Well, and not very long, it's going to, from your perspective, the ceiling is going to hit the floor from your perspective, and that light at one point is going to set on technically your horizon, and then you won't have any light in your area of the room anymore. However, the light is still lighting up the other end of the room, which would be the other end of your city. That's basically what's going on, and that's why I think people have the hardest time understanding it. But really, if you think about that, and then you kind of picture, say you roll a toy car off towards that direction, that if you watch that toy car, it would disappear wheels first. Same way the boat works. And that's basically the best way to describe it or to understand it, is that's what's going on when the sun goes away from us. I've heard people like Zachary Hubbard, many people say, well, why can't you just pull out a telescope and see the sun all night? It's 3,000 miles up. You should see it all night. That makes no sense. Tell them to go inside the room I just explained, and then say, how would you see the light once the light's gone past your horizon line inside that bedroom, that huge room as big as your city? Once the light's gone past that point, a telescope will do nothing. A telescope will only allow you to, it might allow you to see further on the ground, but that's because we know boats go over the curvature, as they say. That happens in 3 miles, but the sun is about 7,000 miles. So, I mean, it's nowhere near the same thing as a boat. So
right, now you might see the light being projected up from it, but you're not going to actually see the sun itself.
Correct. Yeah, so I think that's one of the better ways to kind of describe it. And if I had some sort of skill as far as 3D modeling, I would do some sort of model of that and show it. But all the 3D, I've tried to go into those home makers or room makers, and they all only have a certain limit to the size of the room. But in order for you to get that ceiling to hit the floor, that's why I say it needs to be as big as your city or something even bigger. So here you can see where this might look like somebody might say, oh, that's clouds behind the sun. But clearly you're just not seeing the washed out clouds in front.
Right. It's actually, the light is bleeding through the clouds.
Right.
And lighting up the clouds from the backside, almost like taking a flashlight and holding it behind a piece of paper, a notebook paper. You'll see that it'll light up that whole paper.
Right. So this part here, everybody who's watching, go ahead and pay close attention. David's going to describe exactly what's going to happen here, because it's very important in regards to boats over the edge, where the horizon line is and everything. So go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm going to, this is the way I see how the sun, people say you ought to always see it shrinking, getting smaller and smaller.
Why don't you pause it right there just so you can show them what's going on there?
I'm going to pause it right here. Okay. See that? It looks like a pyramid, and it looks like a road leading out. Now, what that is that's the sunlight, okay? And it's leaving a trail across the water. Right here is the actual horizon line, the true horizon line that we don't see because of all this mirroring that occurs above the visible water line. I mean, I've got boats that go above this visible water line, and I track them right from the very beginning, that right in front of me, and I track them all the way out here. So I asked people, I said, when does it all of a sudden turn into a mirage? Okay, does it turn into a mirage at the point where it hits this water line, or does it turn into a mirage somewhere past it? So it's not a mirage, and this is not a mirage. This is actually the water reflecting the light of the sun. Now, as it goes through, you'll see it creates this funny shape. And I looked at that as a pyramid with the all-seeing eye above it, too. That's one of the ways to look at that picture when it was just touching its own reflection. Now, when it does get smaller, is within sight of its own reflection. Now, watch these edges right here. Remember that's the true horizon line. Now, I believe I zoom in on this a little closer. Yeah,
I think you do right about here or something, if I remember right.
And what happens is you'll get this little football effect looking on it on the end. I could speed it up here a little bit. And we'll take it down. Now right here, I zoom in on it and you get this football. Now right here on these edges is still the original horizon line is right here. And I can prove that with clouds too. After the sunset, I can prove this, that you'll also see clouds reflecting themselves off this water line. Now, right here is where it's actually getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but you don't really see it because number one, you know, you're mostly standing on the shoreline with your eyes and it's just appearing to be the sun going over the horizon, but it's actually not. It's just getting smaller right here within its own reflection.
And you're off. You're looking off towards like Mexico there.
I'm looking. It goes northwest of me, and I meant to stop it right there because there's some pieces in here when you got it. You know, when it's right here, all you're seeing is that light fading away. It would be like somebody running down the street with a flashlight. And when they get to a certain point, you won't see that flashlight no more. You'll just see a little pin dot, and then all of a sudden that pin dot will go out. Well, because I'm zoomed in on it, this is what that pin dot would look like. Right to the vanishing point, gone. And you see where it went, disappeared at, and you see where the visible water line is. So it disappeared above that visible water line.
And there's the clouds that, yeah.
And you can see how dark I had my camera settings. I mean, that was dark. Now this is right off my media player, and it hasn't been messed with at all. Matter of fact, let me close it out, and then you can see this is the video that I was just playing right here. So it has not been tampered with, messed with, or anything. Now this one, I'm gonna have to pull it up to that screen. Is the one that you were looking at. Oh, sorry about that. Meant to make it bigger. There you go. Let me start it back at the beginning because you can really see that funky shape to it. And as I zoom in, it starts to get that hexagon shape. Now those are all lens flares that you're seeing coming off of it.
So you're not somebody who believes in the two suns or anything like that.
No. I've never seen enough proof of it for myself to think that it is. Now and then you'll see these little white things fly across the screen too. Sometimes they'll be bigger, sometimes they'll be smaller. Now you got to remember too that there's bugs flying directly in front of my camera, and I'm always getting eaten up by bugs. And the light shining off of them will actually make them white. They'll look white, like an orb, like a UFO. And I get a lot of comments on that. And I have been out. I mean, I'm a fisherman. I go out and I do a lot of night fishing. I have seen some strange things in the sky, but I'm not going to say that they're alien life, little green men from Mars or anything. Now this is a good video too because this was the same day, and you see how white the background is. Okay, the analogy of that is, do you ever seen movies where they show you a man walking into a doorway that's really lit up and he disappears into the light?
Right. Yep.
Well, that's kind of what goes on with these boats too. When they get out there, they just get eaten by the light from the horizon. That light being shined on the water and reflecting back up into the sky causes you not to see them anymore. It's almost the same principle as being blinded by that light. You just don't get to see anything because the light eats you up, just like the light from the sun eats through the clouds. And
what's the what would you say is the, you know, and be conservative here, what would you say is the furthest boat you've seen? And where you're taking the video, are you at you're basically at the beach. You're, maybe 10 feet high at the most, or how high up are you?
I'm 5.5 feet off the water.
Okay.
Okay, and now let me do this too, Jaron, so people get a sense of where I'm at.
Okay.
As soon as this thing pops up here.
No problem. And yeah, just if you could tell, what's the furthest that you think you've seen a boat? Are we talking? I think the globe model calls for about 3-4 miles. Once you get out towards 6 or 7, at that point you shouldn't see any boat unless it's a tanker, oil tanker, or something like that. And then
I got these little boats, and I know I've got some that are 7-8 miles out.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I do have a video that does show that. Now this is the area that I film at. Hang on here. I keep forgetting I got to throw it up to the top screen.
Yeah, because we don't see anything right now.
Yeah, all you see is my files. This is the park that I go to, and it's right down on the water's edge. And
tell people exactly where you're at too, in case they don't know.
It's called Bayport, and it's in Hernando County,
Florida, right?
This is where I normally I film at right here, but there were some people here, so instead of invading them, I went over to this next little spot, and I'm talking, and I'm saying that, oh, there's somebody here, and I'm going to have to go over to my other spot. But there's this little thing out here that people sit out on, and they watch the sunset from here. And back behind that, some picnic tables for people to have picnics. But what I do is I go right down here by the water. Somebody recently asked me, said, oh, it looks like you're filming at 10 feet. Well, here's my tripod, and I've got it set on not the lowest setting, but I've got it set at about 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So, you see my chair. I sit in the chair, and right there's the water line. And I'm not far from it. Here I bring my camera up. I want to show people, that I am sitting right on the edge of the water. I'm not up on no hill, or I'm not on a seawall. I'm right at the water's edge. And this particular day, I said, well, I'm going to just sit down on my chair, and I wanted to lower my tripod down so I could watch it and sit at the same time. And then here's me mounting the camera on there all at the same time, show people. Now, the way I look at it too is you've got a floor and a ceiling, and we're sitting on the floor and the ceiling's way up there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, we're seeing much more of the ceiling than we are the floor. So this is why we get this dome appearance over us.
Right. And I'll show in a few minutes. I'll show the Rob Skiba video where he shows the conversation between the meteorologist that says, it's a mirage, and the scientist who tells us how things supposedly get pulled over the curvature. And then they do a little experiment, and I'll tell you why it's not a viable experiment, what's wrong with it, and then explain to you, a good way of looking at things. Actually, I'll show you right now, just since go ahead and get ready for your next video, and I'll put this on. So yeah, go ahead and just remember, I'm looking at the chat real quick, and I saw a couple people say Earth's a ball, Earth's a sphere, and you can believe whatever you want. But if you do believe that, then remember that what we're about to hear is a scientist's explanation for exactly what's going on when we see things pulled over the edge. And listen to this guy fumble over his words here, trying to figure out how to explain something that just is not logical. It's not logical at all. So here it is.
Optics expert at that university. Check this out.
There are now lots of different ways that refraction in the atmosphere can occur, and one way that can happen is called looming. And this is a situation where where cases where you can see objects in the distance that would normally be obscured by the curvature of the Earth. So as an example, in the next picture we'll show a picture taken from a person standing on the shoreline of Lake Michigan, and he can see almost to ground level Chicago, whereas normally you wouldn't be able to see that far because of the curvature of the Earth. So what's happening in this case is, especially this time of year, Lake Michigan is much colder than the air above it, and that has the effect of cooling the air just above the lake. And so now you have the case where the index of refraction is increasing with the height above the lake, and this has the effect of bending light rays back down so that they can get around the curvature of the Earth and be seen by an observer standing on the shoreline here in Michigan.
Now, prior to doing this research, I probably would have just shook my head and agreed.
So we're going to go a little bit forward here?
Like to me anyway. All right, let's continue.
Listen to this guy here.
So is all this under Mirage and then looming is under Mirage, or what are the semantics of looming versus Mirage?
Okay, well, that's all. I guess that's all in the details of the terminology. And from what I understand, technically, I think Mirage has to have an inverted image.
Yes.
Whereas there are other atmospheric effects such as looming or towering that are purely displacement, and you don't necessarily have to have an inverted image in order for refractive effects to occur in the atmosphere.
So they would all fall under the category of atmospheric refraction.
I guess that would be a good thing to say. Yes.
Yeah, I guess that might. Yeah, I guess that'd be a good thing to say. So here they show an example of this experiment that they do, where now you have to kind of pay attention to what they're doing here. So they have this setup where they've got a table. I'm trying to find it here. They've got a table set up, and they're showing he basically cut out a picture of a city line or a skyline, and he puts it on this wall. There we go. Okay, so you'll see here this setup. So they've got a flat table, first of all. Maybe you can see my mouse, maybe you can't. You got this flat table, then they've put this magnifying glass here to act as the lens, and then back here on the wall, lower than the table, they've put a picture of a skyline. And they're showing that by looking through this lens, the picture of the buildings has been lifted up so that they can be seen even though it's below the table. So here's a great little thought experiment, or you can kind of picture doing this. What is being done here is they've completely eliminated the entire idea of the water, the curvature of the water, and all the water that would be actually first displayed in that magnifying glass. So here's kind of a way to look at it. Picture holding a magnifying glass up to your eye, and over on the wall you've put a couple marks, one at the bottom, one at the top, and one at the middle. If you put that magnifying glass to your eye and look at that wall, well, guess what? Everything will be shown in that magnifying glass. You're going to see the X that you put at the bottom of the wall, the X at the top, and the X in the middle, because that's what a magnifying glass would do. Now instead, put a body of water underneath your nose and do the same thing, and run that body of water towards the wall, and then ask yourself, when you put that magnifying glass to your eye, would you see the X that you put on the bottom of the wall? Of course not. It's below the water. So of course, through your eye, through that magnifying glass, you're only going to see water, and then you're going to see the wall. So that's what basically they've done here, is they've kind of faked an experiment by completely eliminating the main factor, which is the water, which is actually what's lensed when we have lensing, and that's why we see buildings behind water, because you're actually seeing lensing, and then instead of having air like here on this screen where there's just air between the magnifying glass and the buildings, you actually have a whole body of water that gets lifted and magnified through that lens. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is not a good experiment here at all. They've completely eliminated one of the main factors. Go ahead and get your stuff up here, David. I switched to you. Okay, go ahead.
I think this is the video that I wanted to share. Let me bring it up there to the top screen. And this was one I actually I might have put this one out as a chemtrail sunset, because you could see all these trails up here that are all over the place, and there was an awful lot of planes flying this particular day. but I'm going to speed this up because it's toward the end of the video that I think it's this one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this one that I wanted to show you. All right, let me just pause it right there just for a second. You see the mirroring of the clouds right here on just above the edge of that visible water line?
Wow, great point. I've never seen that before. Absolutely, that's what's going on.
I've got this in several videos, and I'm always saying mirror, mirror on the water, you know, because that's what I look at. I look at this water is actually farther back past here, and I call it the invisible water line. And these clouds are just reflecting themselves off that water. Now, as the sun gets down here, watch where that sun starts reflecting itself at. And I'll do the same thing. I'll pause it right when the sun makes its connection with its own reflection. And you can obviously see that the clouds that are the darker clouds, the more dense clouds, you can see go in front of the sun. But you know that the sun is very bright, so it's going to burn and bleed. That light's going to bleed through a lot of those clouds. Now, I'm going to pause it right here. Mm-hmm. Now, if you draw your line through here, see how the clouds are mirroring, just like the sun's mirroring itself. So these clouds are a long ways away from us. Now, where I would say that, you know, somebody say, well, why can't you see Mexico? Because you're just not going to see Mexico through all of these clouds. Plus, Mexico is going to be such a little sliver, you wouldn't notice it anyhow if it was clear skies back there or not.
Right.
So, no, you're not. You definitely cannot see land from this distance, and especially at the angle that I'm at. You know, you got to think I'm probably 5.5 feet up, because that's as high as my tripod goes. That you're not going to see Mexico from here, not on this angle.
Yeah, and the video I showed that was 160 miles. Oops, I don't know where I'm getting an echo from.
Curious Life did something about on his coast, because he's on the east coast of Florida. I'm on the west coast. But he did something when he sees the sun rise. It's rising at about 7,000 to 8,000 miles away, because it's coming up over Africa. Mm-hmm. At the time that he gets to first see it come into his realm.
Right. And then that video that I did with the Canigeo from Alaush, that, you know, I was just showing that one. That's 160 miles. Yeah, and that's kind of the record. I mean, I've seen a couple other sites claim 180 or 200, and then you're looking at a mountain there. You're not seeing the mountain. You're just seeing the sun being blocked by a silhouette of the mountain, and that mountain being 8,000 feet high. So it's almost 2 miles. That's a mile and a half high. So, you know, for someone to say, well, why can't you see Mexico? Well, first of all, Mexico is a hell of a lot further than 160 or 200 miles from where he's at. And anything that's within that 200 miles, let's say, nothing is even close to being 2 miles high. So basically, there's just nothing that's going to render itself high enough to block his view of the sun here.
Yes, because I'm looking at a lot of distance over the horizon. I mean, all the way across the Gulf of Mexico. You got to be kidding me. I don't think anybody's eyesight would ever be that good. But isn't that last video that you were talking about, isn't that the one the clowns were saying that you CGI'd it or something?
Yeah, it wasn't even my video. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't even your video, and they're saying that you CGI'd it.
Yeah, and that's something that I've told people they can check out. There's that's 2 days a year where people from all over go and check that out. And again, you can just, I have a little thing here. You can just go to the web, look up Canigeo from Alaush, I think is the name of it, and you'll see right away that you can easily see so many people have taken that image, and there's lots of different ones, and there's even images of the moon doing the same thing. So
yes, I've seen a few long distance moonshots from mountains, and absolutely gorgeous too. And that's one of the things that I do a lot of my sunset videos just for the the pure beauty of it. I'm not out there really trying to prove anything on a lot of them. I'm just doing it for the pure beauty of them. But, you know, also I started zooming in on the sun because I started noticing things as I zoomed in. And this is what brought me to the flat earth, is the reflection, the mirroring. So when I first got into this, you know, I was saying to myself, my first couple of videos, I said, look here, I got proof. And then when I took it home and put it on my computer, I seen some things that brought some questions into my mind. And I said, well, you know, before I start blabbing my mouth and, you know, putting this out as proof to debunk the flat earth, I got to look into these other issues that I seen in the video. And, you know, one of the big things was that mirroring, refraction, and another good person besides Rob Sakiba is Curious Life.
He's awesome. Yeah. He does some great videos.
He did the angular resolution that really opened my eyes up to a lot of things, and so is Rob with a lot of his stuff that he's done. That really helped me understand what I was actually seeing, and it helped me understand it much better.
And I've heard quite a few people make comments about these couple images I'm just showing real quick that have some light in front of those mountains, and the reason why is just what we were showing with the clouds. That basically it's washing out even some of this mountain. So here you'll see that this is getting washed out with the reflection off the high water line. Same thing. Okay, we're back on your screen, David.
Okay, I'll go ahead and let this run through. I'll speed it up a little bit. I think I stay zoomed in on this one too. And that was one of the reasons why I started zooming in on them, was because I wanted to actually see what was going on. And if you notice that the sun, when it's setting in the west, is constantly moving northward. And I noticed when it comes up from the north, moves south of me. And then when it gets south of me, it starts moving north of me as it recedes to the west. And I shouldn't say recedes, I should just say going farther away. And here's your two football ends again. And if you watch this, the reflection of the clouds at the same time, you can see that they're right in line with each other. So it's actually just getting smaller within its own reflection, again, right to that vanishing point.
Yep. Yeah, that's. I
mean, it's like the lights going out, or a car driving down the road away from you backwards,
right?
Until it, you no longer see the light. Now, what I tell people to do this too. I use a 8-foot board, and I take that 8-foot board and I lay it on a set of sawhorses. And then what I do is I get down even with it to where I'm just looking at the top surface of the board now, not the edge, that's pointed at me, but just the top surface. Now, the lower I get, now that 8-foot board looks like a little sliver. Now, imagine if that board was 20 miles long and you're going to get down level with it, that board's still going to look like that little sliver, and it won't look like 20 miles long.
Hey, David, do you have the do you have a filter? I've seen some people.
I stopped using my filter because when I did my one video, the shrinking sun video, Q and P and a bunch of other people said, "Oh, I was using a curved fig filter," and what I was using was a pair of sunglasses, which I took those sunglasses and I used them a couple other times, and it did not make the moon or the sun smaller or bigger as I moved it across the screen. It was just a polarized lens off of a pair of sunglasses.
I have a filter that somebody gave to me. I might send it to you just to use for a couple times, just to see if you see any shrinking with the filter on it.
I would be more than happy to try it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Matter of fact, I was fixing to go and look at this $180 filter that everybody says it's actually the right solar filter to use. and I was going to get it to possibly do the solar eclipse when it comes, but I actually would like, when you put a filter on, you lose everything on the outside edges of it.
Oh yeah, you lose it all. I mean, that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. Somebody sent it to me. I think it's like a homemade one, but I can tell it's the right material at the end of it. But yeah, I mean, I just don't. You just see just the sun, the little
Right.
light.
A lot
That's
of
it.
people are using welding glasses,
Oh, okay.
and I did buy some welding glasses. I did use it. I just was not impressed with it. I said, man, I'm losing a lot of the visual on it, and there's some things you can see, and then there's some things you can't see. And on I have a couple of them that I bought, and one of them, it was actually, it made it actually look like clouds going behind the sun, which, once I took it away and cut the light in my camera down and zoomed in on it, now I could obviously see those clouds in front of it again. So sometimes those lenses can or filters can cause some optical illusions itself.
Right. And I've
Like
seen
a UV lens. Have you ever used a UV lens and zoomed in on a star?
you mean to get those kind of psychedelic kind of effects?
Well, it actually looks like a damn UFO. The star does if you use one of them UV lenses. It's weird. It's and then if you spin the lens, you can actually see the what looks like the UFO spinning with it. So it's like, man, that's so deceptive.
Right.
And that's something that I've seen some of these clowns use too. Another thing that I read in a comment that somebody put on one of their channels, because I don't talk on their channels, but I go to their channels and I read what people say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually amazed that they see those little white things that I was talking about fly by. And the guy said, that's a cloud maker. Those are the cloud makers. And I'm laughing. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, somebody's going to claim that that is a cloud maker. And let me ask you, Jaron, what are clouds made out of?
Water particles.
Yes. I heard somebody say that. How can water float?
Well, yeah, it's something I even had to ask myself because I was like, wait, I thought it, because have you ever heard of the weight of clouds?
Water?
The weight
You
of
ever
clouds.
seen water?
I have.
Well, there you go. You can watch the water evaporate into the air.
When you look at the weight of a cloud, that is what's crazy. I think they measure it in elephants, and if I remember right, a regular like cumulus cloud is like 1 million pounds. That's what it is. But
right.
yeah,
I mean, in Florida here, we get layers sometimes where I've done some time lapses, and you know how they say that airplanes are being drug along with the atmosphere, because of its spin.
what a joke.
And I'm watching these clouds, right? And I've got 3-4 layers of clouds going in 3-4 different directions. So I'm saying to myself, well, if this plane's at this level, then it should be drugged that way. Then if that plane's at that level, it should be drugged the other way. So which way is our atmosphere dragging these planes? It just does not make sense when you listen to their shit about the Coriolis effect.
Nope.
I was in the military. I was a pretty good shot. But we did not use that Coriolis effect. And let me tell you that if you were thinking about being a sniper, not only would you have to be a quick mathematician, because it would depend on which direction. And, there's 360-degree angles all around you. So depending on what direction, the wind speed, everything, it would be so hard to figure out how fast the Earth would be spinning at those directions that by the time you figured it out, your target would done gone home and ate dinner and went to bed.
and with a sniper, I mean, you're talking about those guys are shooting a mile or more. The human air would be more than the Coriolis effect. I mean, just the shakiness of your hand.
Their spotter is doing is he's measuring out how fast the wind's blowing, the drop of the bullet
Mm-hmm.
for the distance that he's shooting, and maybe something else in there too. But it has nothing to do with the spin of the Earth. I guarantee you. And these people that claim it are big liars. And I'd tell somebody right to their face, if you have to figure that out, well, let me give you some angles to shoot at and see if you can hit your target.
One of the funnier things was Neil deGrasse Tyson one time put a blog post out talking about some, basically it's an old wives' tale, talking about some British army that was down near the Falkland Islands, and they were launching cannonballs, and then they were missing, and they all get together like, why are we missing? And then he says, well, then they realized that they didn't take into effect the Coriolis effect, or didn't take that into account. And then once they realized that, they readjusted, and then they were hitting their mark. And it's so funny that anybody would ever tell that story, because if you launched a cannonball and you missed to the right, you'd aim to the left. You wouldn't just keep shooting cannonballs, aiming and missing to the right every time, just like, oh, I can't figure out why I'm missing. I guess I can't just turn my cannon a little bit to the left. And so somebody came out
like shooting with your camera, I'm missing my target. I gotta just move it a little bit to the left.
Right. It would take one cannonball that you'd missed, and then you would just aim to the left and hit the next one. But somebody did call him out for that, and it's even in Wikipedia it talks about it being an old wives' tale, never happened. It's just something that another one of those things that they just love to tell us, like the rest of them. And it's pretty crazy that you would ever even think that that's what would happen. Like, you just have idiots out there launching cannonballs into the ocean, like, oh, I don't know what's going on, we guess we can't aim to the left a little bit more.
I was talking about
can you show
I had somebody ask me a question about my camera, how I'm tracking these boats,
mm-hmm.
and keeping my camera so smooth. Well, I have a wire remote. I mean, it's not wireless. It's got a wire connected to it, but it does a 340-degree turn left and right, and then it has a 15-degree pitch down, a 15 pitch degree up. So that's what I use to track the boats. And, it is kind of hard sometimes, because I would like to have one that moved just a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
But because when I hit it, man, I mean, sometimes it'll jump and it'll move pretty fast. And even tracking stars, it's a booger.
Can you?
You go to move it and it moves a lot,
right?
Especially on stars, because they're so far away.
Can you show? Can you show that? Do you have that video of Saturn?
Mm-hmm.
I think people might want to see that, just because, for all the people who think that, and just so you know, I mean, a lot of people also don't know that. Do you have the P900? Is that what you use?
Yes, I use the P900.
Okay, yeah. So the P900 is actually a better zoom than a telescope, and people don't really know that, but that's just the facts, that a telescope doesn't have that kind of zoom. And when you see what he sees here when he shows, Saturn, to say that is a planet, a gas giant, which is 10 times the size of Earth, and I want to say 900 million miles away. I could be off on that, but
746 million.
How much?
746 million, they say.
746. So when you see this, it's just, and I thought it was crazy. You saw it into the daylight, huh?
Yes, that was actually. I'd have to go to my my channel.
I could probably bring that up. I could. I think I have my thing up here.
Yeah, it's in my channel.
Let me see here. I'll just show that one real quick, and then we'll go back to, just because I mentioned it. But
I'd have to dig through these, because I'm not sure which ones they are my Saturn ones, because I got tons of videos of the stars and moon too.
Yeah, you can get stuck for days if you go to this guy's channel, because he really just has observation after observation, be it boats, stars, the moon, planets, anything. So let me see if I can find the one of. Where did I see? How long ago was the Saturn one? A ways back, or?
Yeah, it's a while back, and I did one for. I probably don't want to click on that right now.
I remember seeing the. Where was it? I remember seeing the thumbnail for it. Was kind of. It's just the picture of Saturn, right?
For like 45 minutes, I filmed it for, right from the dark to the sunlight.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was. That's what it said. Let me actually search for Saturn. It's probably the easiest way to do this. Saturn.
And I can't pull up Google while I'm
Oh,
on
that's right
here.
here.
It wouldn't let me. So
Yeah, here's one that's Saturn dusk till dawn. So I'm going to bring this one up here. And let me turn the volume down. Okay, I'm going to switch this. So,
did you find it?
I did, but I actually started at the end because I was watching it earlier.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah.
here, I'll let you play it then.
Okay, I'm playing it.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, I mean, what do you think you're seeing there? I mean, what's your feeling on that? I just think it to me, when we see what
It's not 746 million miles away. There's no way that I could be zooming in on that thing that far away. Anybody that thinks that they can with a P900 get that good of a visual on Saturn at 746 million miles away, that just does not compute. It does not make sense. So all of these stars and planets that we see, I mean, my opinion is they're much closer, because even if I was to, I mean, wow, I mean, just to think 746 million miles, you know how big it would have to actually be? And
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
just
think
crazy.
it's as big as they say it is either. I think it's within our realm. And I have a feeling that the stars are much closer than we even can imagine they are.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of trillions of miles, I mean, that's not even fathomable. Again, the closest star they say is 25 trillion, and 1 trillion seconds is 33,000 years. And so, once you understand what a trillion is, and then you say 25 trillion miles, and then you realize that even an old man who's 104 can come out of his house with failing eyes and look up and see stars. So how is he seeing further than 25 trillion miles, yet he can't read the newspaper? So, I mean, come on.
Right. I have in the Orion constellation, I zoomed in on there's a, I want to say galaxy, but it's called some other name for it. But I zoom in on it, and I've even got a time lapse of it. And that's supposed to be light years away. And I'm saying, no way. No way, because that actually even comes in better than Saturn. And if you notice something about doing time lapses with your P900, go out and zoom in on something out in the horizon. You don't even get the full zoom out of it when you do a time lapse.
Oh, it doesn't let you do the full zoom.
It doesn't do like the full zoom. If you put it on infinity, you get more of a zoom. But if you just put it on the time lapse, you don't get the same distance. If you know what I mean. I did a time lapse of that tripod out there in Bayport. And when I zoomed in on it, I'm like, wow, that's as far as I can zoom in on it on a time lapse. And that's what made me start thinking about, well, that can't be so. And if anybody with a P900, is thinking about this, go out and zoom in on something and put it on a time lapse mode and zoom in on it, and you'll see that you don't get the full zoom out of it that you do if you put it in the camera mode on infinity.
Anything else from your channel that you want me to show, or do you have something you want to show on your screen? Maybe, I don't know if you have a good boat video just to show that. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever, I'm trying to think.
Yes,
I know we showed some last time.
A really nice boat video that I did recently. And, you can look at these files here, people. I mean, it ain't that I haven't done my observational homework. And all these files up here have tons of stuff in them too. I got two, what they call it, not megabyte, but the next one up from megabyte.
Terabyte or gigabyte?
Terabyte.
Terabyte.
Got 2 terabytes in each one of them. So I mean, I got quite a bit of
observations for sure.
Yes. Let me see. I think it was this one.
What's your opinion of the moon? Anything that you could surmise from your observations?
All right. Here's one that I did and I think I was gonna post it, but I never did. But I got a video where the sun is, or the moon is setting in the west, and it's early in the morning. And I want to say about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning before the sun came up, and the moon was actually lit on the right-hand side of it. So the moon was lit on the right. So if the sun was coming up, and you know, when you take into consideration that, you know, the sun's on the other side of the earth as the moon's setting, why isn't it being blocked off by Earth? Why isn't the sunlight being blocked off by Earth? And the reason why is because the moon comes out of the north, or the sun comes out of the north, so the moon's lit up on the north side of it. That's because the moon and the sun are circling the Earth. It's not going around the Earth. It's not going around the ball. It's going around in a circle. So the sun's always chasing the moon, and then it catches up to it and passes it, and this is where you get your moon phases. Now, I did another video where I was watching the moon rise full 12 hours apart from the sun setting. So the sun would have to be on one side of Earth and the moon would have to be on the other side. How is it being lit up as a full moon? That's not, because they're directly 180 degrees apart from each other. That's when you get your full moon. And you can actually do experiments with a couple of like a styrofoam ball.
Hey,
and
David,
source.
Bring something up just so we can watch maybe that boat that you're on right there.
Let me click on this boat.
There you go.
This boat here, again, you can see stuff way in the distance. This wasn't the one I meant to click on. Hang on, I'm going to click on this other boat and then drag it up here to the screen. I keep forgetting to drag it up to the screen. Now, this was a day I wasn't getting a lot of mirroring. I had really good visibility this day. And, well, I want to tell the audience that there's a bird rack in the background that I'm always filming. It's Bayport's bird rack for the channel. Now, this isn't it. This is another little tripod that's you're about halfway there to the bird rack. But this bird rack, I found out, I mean, you can see which boat's further away. And you can obviously see the back of the boat. That boat right there is probably out about 5 to 6 miles.
And if anybody in the crowd has any questions for David, if you just put question or something in all capitals and then ask it, I'll pass it along if you got anything. And David, anybody out there doing any channels you want to plug that are doing good observations?
Matrix Breakout.
Okay.
Rethinking It All. They're doing pretty good. Undiscovered Countries. I like the guy. He's an older gentleman, and he's got some character to him. I like his humor.
That was Undiscovered Country?
Yeah, I believe that's the name of his channel. And of course, Curious Life and Rob Shakiba. I mean, those guys are well known.
Yeah, I'll put all those links. I'll put all the links for them.
Curious Life, I think he could use some more subscribers, though, because he puts out some really good information on all kinds of things.
Yeah, he's smart, too, man. The guy's smart.
Oh, yes. From vaccines to wars and faking of wars and faking of injuries and, I mean, all kinds of stuff, how they can do this, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, you know, people... Normally, this boat would be flying in the air, and all you would see of that boat is the mast. On the days that we have all that mirroring, you would not see this whole boat. You would just see this top part of the boat. And I have plenty of videos that I cannot see the boat, but I can see this mast up at the top. Now, he's getting close to that bird rack, and I'm going to pause it.
Now, how far do you think that is?
Maybe I turn away from him. I think I go back to him. I don't know what I saw. I mean, I got so many of these that, okay, well, I don't know if you've seen that little white thing flying through there. That's a bird. That's a bird. That's a bird flying. And the light's just reflecting off of the bird, causing it to look white.
Somebody says to tell you that there is a.
What's that?
Somebody said to tell you about a filter, a $65 filter, and then I lost the comment, so that's really good. Sometimes this thing flies too fast.
You see this rack here in the back there?
Mm-hmm.
That is another bird rack that's. I'd probably say that one right there is at least 5, 6, 7 miles away too. This boat right here, he's coming out of a place called Hernando Beach. There's another channel over there, and he's actually going more away from me than some of these other boats that come across my screen. And that's another thing too, depending on the direction of the boat, which way he's going, gives you a different appearance of it. And like I said, a lot of times you're looking at this boat, you wouldn't see the whole boat. You wouldn't even see the splashing of water because of that mirroring. And, you know, that's another thing that hides the bottoms of the boats. One of the things that you don't see in the mirroring is the waves. You don't see the waves in the mirroring because it's invisible water. And that also hides the lower ends of the hulls of the boats.
Somebody asked David, do you have any pictures of or videos of nebulas? You can't see that, right?
I've been waiting to get Neptune and a couple of the other ones that I haven't been able to film. I just recently put in an app on my phone to where it gives me the star chart.
But no, like nebulas or galaxies or anything like that. I don't think any camera can see
yeah,
that.
I got the nebula and Orion's Belt.
Oh, wow. That's just a little cloud-looking thing?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I put out a video on it.
Okay, so he said, he's got one on his channel, so check that out.
Yeah.
And then,
you might have to do some searching because I do got I'm building up a lot of videos. I made a video last night. It took forever too, but I made a video. It's 3 hours long. But it shows a lot of my boat observations. I show you the mirroring ones. Then I show you the ones where I have good visibility. And then I do a little experiment with a board at the end of one that I thought was a good little piece of information. That, you know, with this board, it gives you a good idea of how the horizon is, and when we're looking at it. Also, you got to take into consideration that the resolution, the angular resolution plays a big role in looking at that flat plane. The farther you get out, the harder it is to resolve that edge.
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciated
Curious Life
for doing.
Somebody asked if you knew that your footage of the square white 2 holes in it can be seen in STS Mission or in the documentary The Greatest Lie Never Told. I'm not really sure I understand that question. Or did that make sense to you? It says, did you know your footage of the square white 2 hole? I don't know. Square with 2 holes. Yeah, if you guys can't, I can't tell them what that says. Somebody else said, look up a 1000 Oaks optical solar filter at $65. Somebody said that. Somebody asked, what do you know about abysmal plains? Anything about that?
I was reading something something similar to that, yes. But I really didn't follow it all that well.
Somebody asked you if aliens are real.
No, I don't believe in aliens.
And let's see here.
Here's one where I put my tripod. This was a little cheap tripod, so I took it out there and just stuck it right in the water.
Somebody asked me about stars through the moon. You know, I haven't seen it. How about you?
I tried to get stars in there, but
they go behind it, huh?
Aldebaran. I caught Aldebaran on a time-lapse video going going behind the moon.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing that video. Let me see if I can find that. That's a great one.
Yes. And you could not see it go behind. I mean, once it got behind the moon, you could not see it.
Yeah, and I had the same thing happen when we were, this is back last December, I guess, when we were staying at the hotel, that Miss and I taped I want to say it was Venus, the day that Venus went behind the moon. And yeah, it was even a crescent, and it didn't come out until the exact place where the roundness would end, if you will. Let's see here. Is it not the one that says Pleiades, Moon, Orion's Belt, Time Lapse and Picture? No, not that one. Do you remember what it was called? Was it called
Aldebaran? I had Aldebaran in the title.
Let me see if I can find that.
Now, you know, too, when I did that video, I looked on YouTube, and there was several other people that caught it too.
Mm-hmm.
But it went in on different angles, and I thought, wow, if we all, you know, when we do syncing with the moon, everybody kind of sees the moon same as, you know, I mean, we all see it the same, like people that are supposedly on the other side of, you know, the equator see it going in the opposite direction that we do.
Right.
And that's only because they're standing on the opposite side of the room. You know, have a light in the middle of the room, and you're both videoing it. You're both videoing just the opposite side of it. But we see the same shape. You know, the moon's not different. You know,
right.
He's not seeing one side of the moon. We're not seeing the other side. So why would this Aldebaran come in on a different angle on somebody else that's up in Pennsylvania than here in Florida?
Right.
That's because it's not that far away, so the angle would change.
So I'm going to show it here. Let me see where it was here. So he's got, and you saw this on, if I remember right, you saw this on accident?
Yeah. I wasn't even expecting it, and after I caught it, I was like, wow. And then I went on YouTube and seen that, you know, this was one of the big things that people saw, an astrological, you know, event. And I was like, wow, here I caught it by accident.
Somebody else, yeah, so you can see it here coming. Where is it at? Let's see here. Somebody else asked if you've ever filmed anything like the lunar wave.
I've tried, and you know, who knows, I may have caught it but never paid attention to all of my moon. As you see, I got tons of moon observations too, but I never looked for it. Emily.
So we'll see. We're watching right here, right when it's about to touch. So we're going to see it go right behind, right there. And now that part of the moon, if you were just using your eyes, it would be completely black there. Just the camera settings allow us to see the dark part of the moon, correct?
Yes.
And then, you don't see it come out, right? You just saw it.
Actually, I stopped filming. Like I said, I didn't even know it was going to happen, so I stopped filming it.
Looked like it was getting close to the horizon anyway, so let's watch it one more time for them. Alrighty. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I don't know. As far as stars behind the moon, I've seen a couple people who have claimed that there's images of them, but I certainly haven't seen it and haven't seen anything that I would bank on. I think it's pretty proof positive, like you see there, that went behind the moon there. You have anything else you want to show?
Yeah, let me show this other sun video here. You tell me that you can't see clouds in front of the sun. You know, and again, this is cutting all that light down and really allowing you to see it. Now it's kind of wiggly because of I was using a cheaper tripod at the time, and it had a lot of wiggle to it, and plus it was windy. So if I turned up the noise, you would hear the wind blowing. So you get this little wiggly effect to it. But you can obviously see that these clouds are in front of the sun. There's nothing there that's going to tell me that they're behind the sun at all. Not one bit. And I mean, I make some really good observations with these settings too. You know, I get a lot of crepuscular rays, and that's something that's awesome when you're out here in Florida, and you know, you're looking across the water and you see that sun sending down them crepuscular rays. It kind of gives you that feeling that sun is a lot closer than the 93 million miles that, you know, we're being told. You know, if somebody asked me what I thought, I would probably say, you know, 3,000 to 6,000 miles, but not no 93 million miles. And, you know, I cannot positively say. I could just give my opinion of it, but I could not say that this thing is, you know, 3 miles away, 4 miles away. That I guarantee I would not tell you.
Yeah, that's awesome right there. That picture's that's unbelievable. That looks awesome.
I mean, I love filming where I do, and I try to, like I say, I try to go to that same spot so I can get people familiar with my view, and they can see all these channel markers, and you know, they get where when I show the edges of the land, they kind of get familiar with it, and then they can understand, well, why am I seeing this one day, and then another day I can't see it at all. And that's where I say this light refraction coming off the water is what blinds you. We're being blinded by the light is actually what we're doing. And they made a joke, the clowns made a joke out of my video where I said, you know, you're being blinded by the light. They're saying, no, you're not. Well, you know, you look into the light long enough, go out there. I want one of them guys to go out there and stand during 12 o'clock during the day and stand up there and look at the sun and tell me he don't get blinded.
Now, have you ever stood and watched a sunset and felt like you were falling backwards?
Yes. Yes, I have. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, there you can see there's that one there.
Yeah.
You can actually see. Oh no, you can see. I was going to say you can see those clouds on the right there. Look, you know, you can see where somebody would say, "Oh, that looks like it's behind," but you could see that they were in front.
Right. I mean, it's just you're getting less dense clouds that are in there. Plus, too, you know, you still got moisture in the air around these clouds. It's not like there's nothing there. You know, we got a lot of humidity here in Florida, and where does it go? You know, it rises up out of the ocean, and it goes up, and you know, it starts forming clouds.
All right. Well, David, everybody can follow your channel. You also mentioned Matrix Breakout, correct? And
yes, got some good videos, and there's a few other ones that
Rethinking It All.
I feel are putting out. And Andrew John, he's got a Canon that he's been filming stuff from a long ways off. Taboo Conspiracy, he's another good guy, very, very honest. I've spoken to him personally, and he doesn't seem to me as like, you know, he's truly looking for truth. He wants to find, you know, what's going on in our world, and he's a very smart guy too. I don't want to tell you what kind of work he does, but the work that he does, you have to be a smart guy, because otherwise you're not going to last long in the business that he's in. Plus, too, I think a lot of the people that are out here that are looking for truth, you know, they see certain things, like say somebody shows you these wild looking stars. You know, that's where I tell people focus matters. If you use that manual focus, that does make a big difference in your star videos. I've got a bunch of them out there I've been wanting to delete, but I leave them out there so when people make a comment, I tell them, I said, well, you know that this is way out of focus.
Right.
I'm honest with them. I don't want to deceive people, so I tell them right off the bat that my video is out of focus. This is not an in-focus star. Because they look more mysterious when they're out of focus, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. They look like they're spinning discs of disco lights or something.
Yeah, well, asked me, can we get some information from them out of focus? Why, certainly.
Yeah.
Why, certainly. You know, you can get some information from them.
So I'll tease. Go ahead.
I meant to ask you, did you get to watch my last video where I changed the settings on Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn?
No, I don't think I did. I thought the last one you did was the sun one.
No. Well, this one was a little while back, but I did one with Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. It's pretty wild, dude. You know, it's another Star Wars in Heaven one.
Oh, I love that one.
Man, did I get some? You know, I don't know what's going on in those, but hey, I'm gonna tell you, I'm honest with people. If I mess with the contrast, the saturation, or the brightness, I tell you that I do.
Right.
Okay. I tell people in the description that I do because I don't want to mislead people. So I'm honest about telling them if I manipulated the video at all. And on them, I tell people right up front what I did with the contrast, the saturation, and the brightness on them. And if you set these on up on your conversion, and then you see these what looks like laser beams coming from these objects or these stars and planets, it's like wild. I don't know what exactly it is, but I kind of found it on accident by just playing around with it, you know, seeing what was what. If I could darken the screen up, and then all of a sudden I start seeing these lasers that looks like it's flying from the planets.
Yeah, and I think if you search GLOBEBUSTERS and Wide Awake, we showed one of those on the show you were on with GLOBEBUSTERS, and then check your channel. You said it was recent because, yeah, that's crazy. They look like they are colored lasers coming from the ground. Certainly looks incredible.
Yes.
Any final words for people?
What's that?
So do you have any final words for everyone?
Yes. Make sure you check out those other people. You know, subscribe to them, show them a little love, and also make sure you keep checking with Jeranism. I think Jeran is a very honest guy. We all make mistakes, so if we learn from our mistakes, that's a good thing. And also being willing to admit that you made a mistake, like I was when I first put out my first video of clouds behind the sun. And I knew I made a mistake in it later on after I figured out this light. So never be afraid to make mistakes because we learn from them. All right?
Absolutely.
And
put it.
y'all have a good night or good day, whichever part of the world you're from.
And I'll kind of tease out what I'm going to show tomorrow. If you just kind of watch what's on now, I'm not going to really tell you what it is, but it looks like we're seeing some sort of rocket launch being filmed. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like the film is rolling. Up there, it looks like a rocket is going up, and then in a second you'll see what exactly I'm looking at. And we got these guys who look like they're in some sort of a production studio or something. They got some magnetic tapes running, and then you'll see something good here in a second.
Did you see the video? I think it was GeoShifter put out with where they were using a model for one of the satellite launchers, and you could see the guy in the background.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I think that was a reflection, but I've seen it.
I don't know what it was, but it was pretty weird looking.
Yeah, they've got so much stuff, and if on the screen right now I'm showing where these guys were filming a rocket launch, and they are all inside of a studio, and they're looking at a black drop with, you know, production lights, and this is where they're basically filming. Certainly looks like a rocket launch to me. So
who was it that showed when they were in the ISS a drop of water came from a pipe above them and dripped straight down? Somebody showed a video of that, and I about died because I was like, wow, I bet you they would have cut that out if they would have saw it.
Yep. Yeah, I'll post, somebody asked to post, I'll post all the links to all the channels that we mentioned, but definitely check out Wide Awake. Definitely check out Rob Skiba. I've been using that video for 2 or 3 shows in a row, so thank you, Rob. He does some great work. You know, research the Canigao from Aloche in France. That's the 160 miles mountain. You know, I had somebody I was talking to this week who was saying, yeah, but what kind of camera was it? What kind of lens was it? Was it a telephoto lens? And I said, dude, you don't get it. It doesn't matter what kind of lens it was. I don't care if you've got a bazooka telescope. It's 160 miles away, which is impossible on the ball. So some people just don't get it. Some people do. And I'm not going to worry too much about those who don't, because I don't got time for that, because there's others that do get it, and we need to move forward. So thanks to Wide Awake. Thanks, David, for doing the good job that you're doing. And appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to let you go. I think ODD is starting up something live here, or just did, so go check that out. And go ahead.
I said, cool. I'll check ODD out. I like his information that he gives.
Yeah, me too. I like him.
There was one other thing though, Jared.
Sure.
I want to say that I subscribe to a lot of channels, and I take what I can get from them, things that make sense, but I don't believe everything that everybody says. I question it, and that's what we're supposed to do. You don't have to accept everything that one channel says or another channel says, but you can put it into your food bank and use that, and then if you can confirm it later on, then you can accept it. But to just totally deny something without investigating it, it's not good either. I mean,
no, or to call,
we need to investigate things,
or to call somebody names, or to give them a hard time in chat. Somebody might have a different belief than us right now. Maybe they haven't been shown enough evidence, and maybe we need to review more evidence. I still look back, and the first time somebody told me 9/11 was an inside job, I told them to shut up and never talk to me again. And my wife told me, what do you think, could the earth be flat? And I told her to shut up. How do planes go around it? So, I mean, there's so many times in our life that we think that we are knowledgeable about a subject, and how many times have we had that shoved right back in our face? And so at this point, anybody who thinks they know what's going on, or thinks that they've got all the answers, you need to do more research. And then, I like what you said there, Wide Awake. I watch all kinds of channels, and it doesn't mean that I agree with everything they say. I take the good and kind of store it. And if they start telling lies, or they're just saying things that don't really match my reality, then I stop watching, and then I move on to other people. That's all you can do. Yeah, that's all. I agree.
If I know that they're intentionally lying, hey, because like I said, we all make mistakes. But if I know they're intentionally lying, I'm gonna discontinue watching that channel.
Or the easiest way for me is when somebody says I'm a satanic, I'm a Satan worshiper, or that I am some sort of shill, or that I'm making money off of flat Earth. I'm making thousands, and I mean those kind of people are easy for me to dismiss real quick. Because if they do that kind of research on me, then I don't really need to see their research on anything else. So,
some people monetize their channels, some people don't, and I don't have a problem with somebody, having a little PayPal thing, and hey, there's people that want to donate. Hey, man, that's great. I think it's wonderful that somebody would donate to the cause of this, so that way you can present more evidence, and you can go out and search, and you can have the ability to go on the internet and have the time to do this, because believe me, just the observations that I've made, I've got thousands and thousands of hours invested in this on top of me running my own business. It's a hard hand to shuffle, but I don't know how I do it.
You don't monetize your channel?
No, I do all of it for free, man. I think all knowledge should be for free.
And I'll say this because I've said it about other people, but I really think that anybody who doesn't monetize their channel is throwing away money. And it is free because nobody pays any money for watching the ads anyway, and everybody skips them anyway. And it may not be much, but in my opinion, Google is ready to hand you money. So just from me to you, I would say to inconvenience people for 5 seconds before they watch your video, and in turn you can make an extra $100 a month. I don't think that's huh? But then then the things like a solar filter, or those. I mean, I was able to purchase my laser.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And
so,
like I say, that nobody. Yeah. People aren't paying for it. They're just kicking off of little commercial or whatever they want to put on your
Right. And the
channel.
thing,
I might check into that and think about doing that.
yeah, and the thing about people think, I think there's a number like you get $1 per every 1,000 views or something like that. Which, if you're in the conspiracy world, I mean, remember, you only get paid when somebody clicks on an ad. So if you make videos like we do, nobody clicks on any ads. The people who make good money are the people doing videos about makeup or doing beauty, and then the ads are all Revlon and L'Oreal. Those are the people that make money on ads because nobody clicks ours anyways. But
we're the ones putting out the lies about the stars, the moon, the ISS, and all of those.
Yep. Yeah, I can't believe how much
some of those out there monetizing, which I'm like, wow, they're showing you a video of the ISS going around the world, and it got, my goodness, if you can't see that that's all CGI, wow. And then somebody wants to say that the sunset that I did is a CGI. Oh my God.
It makes no sense because it's just one
make any sense, does it?
One is so far away from reality. When the other just looks like reality. It's not even difficult. So, yeah, definitely check it out. I do agree that, knowledge should be free. And that's why, I've vowed that, I don't hold anything back, any kind of information I find, any evidence I find. Like, I'll be talking about it tomorrow, but you can look into the Great Pyramid. I was doing some research based on the conversation I had with Orphan Red and was trying to figure out exactly what star has been where for how long, and I finally found some good info on the Great Pyramid, and I found out that the shaft that comes out to the north, I had to do some real good research to find out exactly what angle that was coming out at, and it was coming out at 31.20 degrees. And so I said to myself, you know what, I would be shocked if I went and looked up what is the damn latitude of the Great Pyramid, because if it's 31.2, that means that the north shaft is pointing directly at Polaris, which means it's probably always been there, and yet they're lying to us again. Well, what did I do? I look up the Great Pyramid, 31.15 means it's pointed right at Polaris, which means probably, in my opinion, Polaris has been the North Star since the pyramids were built, yet they tell us, no, it used to be pointed at Thuban,
or something, or
Thuban, which they actually say that that's how they figured out the date that it was built. It's 2250 BC or something, because that's when Thuban was the North Star. But
they just changed the name on it, Jared.
Yep.
That's all they did, was they just changed the name from that to Draco and then down to Polaris. And who knows, in 100 years they might call it
something else,
Polaris or Polaris or something. You might totally change the name on it. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I mean, because I got to say this. Probably a year and a half ago, I went on Jaren's channel and I trolled him, and I talked bad stuff about him. And then I started watching his videos again, and I realized that Jeren wasn't out intentionally trying to lie or fool people. He was an honest guy as far as what I could find out. And the only reason I was saying some of this stuff was because the person I was hanging out with was saying that Jeranism was a faker. He was using CGI and stuff. But I went back and I sent Jeren a private message apologizing for insulting him and saying what I did say about him. So I was man enough to make that apology to Jeren. And Jeren was man enough to accept my apology. And because of that, he's gotten me a whole lot of subscribers watching my videos. And I really appreciate his honesty and his manhood to be able to accept my apology for the trash talk that I was talking about him.
No problem.
And I do. I honestly do, Jeren. I appreciate that because it's not too many times that, you meet somebody and you have bad words to them, and then they, throw it aside and accept your apology and know that you are truly apologizing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I just do what I know my info isn't easy to swallow, and some people are standoffish, right? We're all in that conspiracy kind of mindset, and we all know we've been lied to for our entire lives. So it's tough to, trust anybody, and all I would say is just give everybody a chance and look at their body of work. There's so many people, go look at my comments that sit there and say, Jaren's deceiving you, Jaren's doing this for money, Jaren's a Bitcoin thief, every possible, I'm a Satanist, whatever it is. And all you need to do is just do, what was that? Oh, all you need to do is just do the, check my work. None of these guys are bringing Jaren's lying about this, or here's my proof that Jaren's a Bitcoin thief. If I'm a Bitcoin thief, then the cops would come and arrest me and I'd go to jail. That's what happens when you are a thief. I'm out here with my real name, not just, so I never stole any Bitcoin.
Go to your channel and look at how much money that you bring in, and it's peanuts.
Say it again?
Peanuts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. No. I mean, yeah.
It's peanuts, Jared. I looked and I said, wow, I didn't know that you could check it, but it's peanuts. And that's when I said, wow. I said, somebody's been lying to me. And, of course, the guy that I was hanging out with, I put out one video that he disagreed with. And he threw my friendship under the bus, and he's trash talked me. So I look back at that and I say, wow. So I know who was really doing the deceiving. This guy had me looking at stuff that really was throwing me way off track. And, once I started getting back on track and doing my observations, it really did set me in a straight line. Observations go a long way in my book, because if you can observe it and you can do this many times over, and, it's like an experiment. You got to be able to do it and see it over and over and over again. Well, on all my videos, I see this mirroring. Then some days I don't see it. And on those days I don't see it, I get a lot better vision and I see much further. So my observations confirm a lot to me. And I mean, I've got a lot of them that I've never posted that I'll try to start posting a lot more of my boat videos and my horizon visit videos. And I think that will help people understand what I'm seeing.
Well, good. Yeah. And I've had a couple people who have asked me too. They said, what happened? You used to be doing experiments. You used to be getting out there and doing stuff, which, makes me feel bad, because that's what we really enjoyed doing and we want to get back to it. The problem is we had a 2004 Accord that I bought for my wife, and in less than a year, and like 8 months, it was totaled by a neighbor who pleaded with me not to call the cops and not to do, and they would take care of it, and then they would send a mechanic, and the mechanic came and said it's totaled. And since then we've just been waiting for these people to do what they are supposed to do, since they wrecked our car. So I've got a 95 Ford truck that is not dependable, and so it's not as easy for us to, and it also costs, the gas is ridiculous on this truck. And, we live like 25 minutes from the beach. So, I'd love to get over there, but we had a car that was dependable and was nice. And it is sitting in my driveway with a quarter of the front completely smashed in. So, I want to get back to doing that stuff. And that's our plan as soon as we have a dependable ride.
Lesson?
Say it again.
Did you learn your lesson? Next time that happens, just call the cops.
Oh yeah. You learn your lesson always.
Same thing happened. We had a friend hit my wife and sideswiped the whole side of the car. Oh, I'll take care of it. I got a guy send you to. We went there and the guy threw us out.
Yeah.
And the guy never paid us a penny for the damage that he did.
Yeah, that's what I'm dreading. But I these people seem like they are going to take care of their end of the bargain. So they just have that complaint like, oh, we don't have any money. We don't have anything right now. It's like, you got like 4 cars over there. I see you guys all going to work. Like, I don't know. Just we want to get back out there. That's what we bought, the laser. We've got the portable sun still. We've got our cameras, a real nice camera. We both have phones. It's like we're set up to do the stuff that we were doing before. We think we live in a great area with the Monterey Bay right here, and summer's here.
Oh yeah, you're at the Monterey Bay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'd love to come there and go fishing.
Yeah, it's really nice, and we've got definitely got some views that we could take some pictures of, and we just want to get back out there. It just sucks when I hear somebody say, I think that the comment was, you used to be doing that, but then you realized where the money was. It was in doing videos. That's why you're doing this now. Just ridiculous. I mean, I'm doing this because I want the truth, and I know I was lied to, so we're just going to keep searching and we'll get back to doing experiments soon as we can. But until then, you will find me here most nights, most days, checking in and updating everybody on my research. So appreciate you being on, David. Check out his channel, Wide Awake, and then I'll also put all the links in the description. So be kind, as I always say. Don't lie, and open your mind, because the truth is nowhere else. That's what I was going to say. Till next time, guys. Peace.
Hey, Jaron. I got you for a second still? Nope. Okay. Jaron, are you still there?
Astronaut.
Sun is going in front of clouds when, if you just really watch, you'll see exactly what's going on. And, you know, we were talking before, David and I, but when I finally realized what was going on is it took me going into my video editor. I saw 2 or 3 videos where, excuse me, where people had said birds had gone behind the sun. And it really looked like it to me. I looked at it, I said, man, that really looks like that bird's going behind the sun. So I put it in my editor and changed the color compensation. And when they got it to a certain color, you could clearly see the bird go in front of the sun. So at that point, I realized what's happening is just the sun is so bright and it just washes out anything in front of it. So for instance here, the sun is not going in front of these clouds. It's going to, it's going to go behind these clouds, but it's so bright that it will wash out what's standing between us and the sun. And so obviously you can't no longer see those clouds. So it might give the appearance, especially if the cloud is showing on the right side of the sun, the left side of the sun, clearly you can tell that it's not going in front of any clouds. And really, if you just think about it, really kind of understand that our sunset is someone else's noon, is someone else's sunrise, and then think about the clouds and where they would need to be in reference to everyone's view, and you'll really quickly realize that you're not seeing clouds behind the sun. And the other way to check that out is go to anybody's balloon launch. I often reference Dwayne Kellum. I think Dwayne Kellum's done some of the best work, and if you watch that, you'll clearly see that the sun doesn't ever go. It's above the clouds. It's higher than the clouds.
It's always above the clouds, and that's what I had said to I think it was Splatter Photography, or maybe it was Awake Souls. I told him, I said, you find me any high altitude balloon flight that shows a cloud that high up and it goes behind the sun, and then I'll believe you. But as far as I'm concerned, it was actually Q and P was the one that got me watching all these high altitude balloon flights. And that was another thing that the light popped on inside my head.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start.
2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another live video for you today. And joining me is going to be David, and he's from the channel Wide Awake. We're going to be looking at some of his videos, discussing a few ideas and concepts. So, should be a good show.
Okay, Story, I'm
Sorry about that.
I've done the work at the VC.
I had a little NASA thing pop up. That was fun. And so you can sub to Wide Awake, please, if you haven't. He's got some awesome observations, and that's, some of the unsung heroes, if you want to call them that, of this whole movement have been the people who are just making some stellar observations and putting out some videos that, make it easier for all of us to go and actually observe some of these things, because I think that we're, uncovering new things every day because of these guys. So it's great to have them aboard. So David, what's up, my friend? How are you doing?
Good. Like to bring up some of my sun videos. I think there's some good observations and some good information to be taken from them.
Yeah, I think so too. I wanted to cover real quick just the news of the day, a little interesting fact that the U.S. launched a missile today. I don't know if you saw that, out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, and then from basically I don't know why that keeps happening. Basically, from the atoll, then they launched another missile to intercept it. Okay, that's all great and dandy, but set us back 244 million. That just
said, wait a minute here. You know, I don't see a cloud anywhere near that sun when they show the sun up there by these high altitude balloons. So I said, now how in the world? I mean, you can obviously see the clouds well below it. I mean, well below it too. I mean, they're not anywhere near the sun. But again, I'm not one that will believe that the sun is 93 million miles away either. And that is definitely not the case
No.
what I see.
No, not at all. And, you know, I think the best way to describe it, and I have to do a video about it because everybody listening, see if you can follow along with what I'm going to say before we get to the sun here at the horizon. But this is the best way I think you can describe it. It kind of answers all the Globers questions about the sun. Is you really need to picture yourself in your bedroom that you're in right now. Picture the 8-inch or the 8-foot ceiling, and then just picture that room being as big as your city. So the room is huge, okay? And then picture a light on your ceiling, and that light is above you, which is going to light your room, your area right here, you're lit. And then picture that light starts going away from you towards the other side of your city. And it's moving away from you. Well, and not very long, it's going to, from your perspective, the ceiling is going to hit the floor from your perspective. And that light at one point is going to set on your, technically your horizon. And then you won't have any light in your area of the room anymore. However, the light is still lighting up the other end of the room, which would be the other end of your city. That's basically what's going on. And that's why I think people have the hardest time understanding it. But really, if you think about that, and then you kind of picture, say, you roll a toy car off towards that direction, that if you watch that toy car, it would disappear wheels first. Same way the boat works. And that's basically the best way to describe it or to understand it, is that's what's going on when the sun goes away from us. I've heard people like Zachary Hubbard, many people say, well, why can't you just pull out a telescope and see the sun all night? It's 3,000 miles up. You should see it all night. That makes no sense. Tell them to go inside the room I just explained and then say, how would you... Makes me... Yeah, I don't even understand how people, you know, put up with this kind of stuff. But I guess it's because, you know, I don't know, how many times has America been hit by a missile since 1991? I think it's like 2,210 times. Oh, wait, no, let me check that again. That's my bad. The U.S. has actually dropped 2,210 missiles since 1991 on other countries. So that's $600 billion that we've dropped on Iraq and Serbia, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, Bosnia, Sudan, the Yemen. So pretty sad. So this test was certainly needed, I guess, even though they say it's to protect us from North Korea, yet their most recent test went 250 miles and then dropped into the ocean. So more wasted money. So, David, I did notice that you got attacked, much like I have been, or accused, like me, of being on Team Satan. You had your footage called faked or CGI. You're a deceiver, and all this because you said that clouds don't go behind the sun. So is that correct?
That is correct. It's been by a gang of them, actually.
Yeah, they don't. They come in numbers, don't they?
Yes, they do, and all of them are believers in their belief, and I'm a believer in what I actually see and what I observe. And most of the time when we observe the sun on the horizon, we were looking through a lot of atmosphere that is actually filtering out that sunlight. Because if you look directly above you when there's no clouds in the sky, you can't look at that sun. So the reason you can look at that sun on the horizon is because of all the atmosphere and the clouds that are actually built up in front of you.
Go ahead and press play on your video. We got it up now, and you can talk us through. I saw this video earlier today, and I think it's one of the better examples I've seen of what happens at the horizon. So pay close attention as we get down near that. Have you seen, and I'm kind of looking at your sun now, kind of can't really tell. Have you seen the sun appear to look like a hexagon at all?
Yes. Right at the very beginning it does, and I have one that was earlier that I actually have on this particular day that showed it as a hexagon.
Yeah, really interesting because
I can pull that one up too a little bit later and show it to you.
sure, yeah, I'd like to see it because I mean, there's that artificial sun that NASA has the patent for, and it's definitely a hexagon. So interesting. I mean, I can kind of see it in this image actually. Kind of looks like a hexagon to me.
Yeah, in a little bit you can kind of see a little squareness to the edges.
Yeah, definitely.
Now they brought up this thing about photoshopping or CGI. I don't even know how to CGI anything. I'm pretty computer illiterate. I mean, I'm only able to post my footage on there, a little bit of editing, or put a transition between one video to the next. But as far as having the capability of photoshopping or using CGI, I don't know how to do it. So for them guys to accuse me of that, I mean, I cracked up laughing. Now, this particular day, it was actually beautiful. It was a beautiful blue day. You couldn't see these clouds on the horizon. Now, one of the reasons why it's so red is I've cut back on all the lighting in my camera. The exposure compensation, I got at -0. I think even the exposure bracketing, I've got it at on high, believe it or not. And then on the light, I've got it on -3, I do believe is what it was on my camera settings. So I tried to cut as much light as possible. But like if I showed you a couple of videos earlier from this day, you would see how blue the sky is and how white out the background actually is.
Right. Now, if you bring that down to where we're getting close to, I mean, the clouds in this one, it's kind of hard to tell. People can think whatever they want to. Those guys seem to think for some reason that the